All right. And we are live. Check out the chat feature here. All right, guys. So for everyone watching, I'm Rick Howard. You should be able to chat live and ask me questions if you have anything that you want to dig into for government contracting. Just a quick overview. I'm a former government contracting officer, acquisitions officer. I was a program manager. And we also have contracting officers that work on our team. So with Richard C. Howard and Associates, also in association with GovClose. And now we help companies sell to the government, and we also train sales executives. And I've also done those jobs for companies. So we can really tackle this from any perspective that you want, from the government's point of view, how they put companies on contract, what they're looking for, how you can generate results. We can tackle it from a sales executive perspective. What do you need to do to sell to the government? What are some best practices? And then we can also talk about strategy and tactics, which I am a big fan of personally, because one of the huge advantages that we have selling to the government is that all of the data, most of the data associated with government contracting is publicly available. So it's a big difference between selling B2B or B2C and selling to the government. So I can go and I can see how much is the government spending. I can look at who is actually doing the purchasing. I can look at what offices specifically that we can target. I can dig even deeper and I can look at how much small businesses make in a particular niche. We can get into some of that today. This is really powerful because if you want to sell to the government and you are in, say, a construction business, the first question you need to ask yourself is, well, first of all, does the government buy what I'm selling? Secondly, how much can I make? But we can see that. We can see exactly what, if you're a small woman-owned business, if you're a veteran-owned business, if you're a small business with no designation, we can go into the analytics and see exactly what companies like yours that are successful, how much are they making each year? And not only that, we can see exactly what offices they're selling to. With limitations, we can see what they're providing. Pretty powerful stuff, right? Because that's how we can develop niches. We can even see how many offers are coming in for certain solicitations. And that can tell us how much competition there is. And that's how we help our clients develop niches within government contracting. Because there are some that, you might look at it and you see 50, 60, 70 offers coming in per solicitation, whereas others might have 2 or 3, right? So, hey, Ivan, how's it going, man? So Ivan's part of our certification program. Actually, he is a recent certification student. And then I see Legend from Milwaukee. What's up, man? I'm just going to type a test right here into the chat just to make sure that we are seeing everything all right. And if you guys can't hear me, just let me know. But I can see the chats here. So very cool. All right. So again, feel free to throw questions in the chat and I will tackle those as we go. But I thought maybe for today, it would help to walk through how we are actually, hey, Porsche, I don't know if I'm saying that correct, but good to go. Cool. Thought it would help to kind of walk you through an example, right? And I brought up construction for a reason, because I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the initial steps that I think everyone should take before they even start selling to the government. But, this is the first step that we take with companies that have been doing it for a long time as well, to optimize what they're doing. Because most people don't take advantage of all the information that's out there. So important, so important. And so if you found yourself struggling, or just either struggling to sell to the government or just interested in government contracting in general, this is a great place to start. Hey, Christian, what's up? All right, now I'm going to see if I can share a screen here. Hold on 1 second. It may or may not let me. All right. Cool. And oh, you don't know where to start? Yep. No, I'm just reading some of the comments here. Yep. No worries. I should be able to walk you through that here today. All right. Okay. Let me ask you guys, can you see a PowerPoint deck right now? And Legend, I just recently got into government contracting field. Okay, so you're not seeing that. Okay, that's fine. Just me. Sorry, guys. You're going to have to just look at me. I got a face made for radio, as they say, right? Just recently got into government contracting field, and I'm looking for the best way to navigate it. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to describe what I'm doing here since my computer's not operating. This is our first Q&A session, by the way. So that's why we're hitting this. So let's talk about where to start. We've got a variety of videos out there that you can access, which walk through the different tools you can use that are free to start doing some of the analytics that I'm talking about. So what I recommend is starting with a website called usaspending.gov. usaspending.gov is a free analytics site. And when you go into it, you can search through what the government is awarding. So I would recommend that the first place to start is not with, building a website, starting a business, doing all of this stuff. The first place to start, hopefully you already have a business, but the first place to start is to see if the government buys what you sell. If the government doesn't buy what you sell, then you shouldn't be selling to the government, right? Now, the government buys almost everything, like everything you could think of. I did a fun little reel or whatever you call them, the short on YouTube, going over how much the government spent on comic books in the last 3 years. It was something ridiculous, like $20 million in comic books, right? That's actually a really low spend from the government. Usually we're talking about tens, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars for things like construction, accounting. But so I start with USA Spending, and I want to see first, does the government buy what I sell? You can look that up by keyword. It's not as good as looking it up by a NAICS code, NAICS. It stands for North American Industry Classification Code. So the government basically categorizes spending into different, under different numbers. And it's not perfect, but it's good enough to just see, does the government buy what I sell? Now, once you do that, what will happen is if you find an NAICS code, or there's another code called product service code that you can look up, which is a little more targeted, it'll show you how much spending per year that the government is spending. And now you can take it from there and start looking at, there's so many ways to drill down on the data. But what I recommend is you look at how much you're spending on small business, because remember, the government has a requirement to put small businesses on contract. So that could be 23 to 25%. A lot of agencies actually exceed that requirement for small business. So you might see in your field something like construction gets more small business spend. You can also look at it if you're a woman-owned small business, veteran-owned. You can see, hey, these type of businesses, how much is spent on those type of businesses? How does the government buy? So for me, that's the first place to start. Do they buy what you sell? I will also tell you if you are in the position where you're looking at government contracting and you don't have a business, I would ask you to pause, right? Because I will say this, government contracting is not easy. Government contracting takes a long time. It's not impossible. It can be very lucrative, but 6 to 18 months is a normal timeline for how the government buys. And the reason I'm telling you this is because if you don't have a business, it's going to be a lot harder to sell something to the government. So what I would recommend is if you have a business that's already selling commercially, now go to USA Spending, see if the government's buying what you sell, how much. That's the first place. And then second, you go to sam.gov. When you see that the government's buying, you get an idea of how they're doing it. You can register your business there. If you don't have a business, now what we have done, we created a certification course because of how many people are interested in government contracting, but don't have a business with commercial sales. And so I'm not telling you to stay out of this field. In fact, I'm telling you, hey, this is actually kind of a blue ocean because there aren't many people that actually understand this process. What you may want to do is consider learning the government contracting process and looking at, there's sales executive jobs that are very lucrative. Consulting, you just have to learn a little piece of the government contracting process. It could be the SBIR process or proposals, or certifications for small businesses, or how to build a roadmap and strategy. These are areas that are very profitable, and because of how much money is spent in government contracting, you can work supporting companies that are already on contract with the government or looking to do that, and do very, very well for yourself. So there's two ways to go there. And by the way, there's so many different areas within government contracting. I'm not going to blanket statement that. I mean, there are things that the government buys where you could just get into it and start selling to them, but typically those are kind of lower priced contracts, commodities, things like that. All right, let me go back to the messages here. Oh, how do you find your niche? So let's say your specialty is accounting services, right? Now, if your specialty is accounting services, one thing that you can do, USA Spending isn't the only website you can use, by the way, to do this kind of research. But as I'm looking through something like accounting has many subcategories. Almost every niche does. They're going to have subcategories like tax preparation services or bookkeeping. And you can look at each of the subcategories. This is how we refine the niche, and see, first of all, businesses like yours. So if it's a small business, for most of us, that's what it's going to be. How much spending is happening with small businesses within that niche? And in USA Spending, again, you can look and see how many proposals are being submitted per solicitation. There are other websites that can look at an entire NAICS code or PSC code, and give you that information as an average, which could save you a lot of time. That's one way to find your niche. So, hey, what can you do? What are you selling? What's your specialty? And then within that, think of the subcategories, look at them, analyze the spending, and see how much competition there is, right? So, for accounting, and I'm going to make up these numbers just because I can't share my screen with you. But if I go and I see that tax preparation services and bookkeeping, again, making this number up, let's say there was $100 million a year spent on each of them. But on tax prep services, I see that 45 solicitations are coming in 45 proposals from companies on average are coming in per solicitation. But for bookkeeping, I see that on average 2 or 3. Well, that gives me an indicator that bookkeeping could be a great niche. So that's the first place I start when I'm trying to define a niche. What is the government doing? How much to spend? How much competition? What can I do? And I look at all those different areas. I got a notice through IPP for a contract I submitted, but have not heard from contracting. Should I contact them? Okay, I don't know what IPP stands for, but let me kind of riff on this a little bit. If you submitted, when you say you submitted, I'm assuming you submitted a proposal on a contract. Vern, I think this is Vern Sports Takes. If I've submitted a proposal on a contract, this is critical. This goes for anything that you submit to the government. Sources sought, RFI, proposal, anything official that you're engaging on. The first thing I do, I always in the email that I send to them, if it's an email submission, I put please confirm receipt. And if I haven't heard back from them by the next day, I'm on it. I'm on them like, hey, please confirm that you received this proposal. Because with the government, and this happened to me all the time when I was on the government side of this. For instance, my wife would send me emails and I wouldn't get them. Well, because in her signature block, she had a link to her Facebook account or LinkedIn account, or maybe she had a picture in there. The government email systems block emails all the time. And I know it sounds kind of like an oxymoron because they're asking you to send them an email with an attachment. But sometimes the attachment could be the thing that gets blocked. This happens a lot, actually. So if you submit anything and you haven't heard back, email them, call them. Don't stop until they say, yep, I got it. Because you'd be surprised how often they didn't get what you sent. And so you have, first of all, confirm that they even received it. Now, the next thing is with a contract, when you're submitting a proposal, it depends on the industry, but typically these are not fast turnaround times. Typically these take a while for the contracting office to actually review everything, especially if they get a lot of proposals. It could take 3 months, could take 6 months. But there's nothing that says you can't contact the office and get an update. I wouldn't be contacting them every week, but once they confirm receipt, give them a week or two. You can ask them, hey, what do you think the timeline is for award? Right. So there's a lot of things that you can ask them, but yeah, so nothing says you can't contact the contracting office that you submitted on. Can you pin the link to that website in here? I'm assuming you're talking about USA Spending, and yes, I can. Next time I'll have my screen share capability set up and we'll just walk right through it. Okay. There you go, man. usaspending.gov. That's where you can do a lot of free analytics and research. And by the way, if you haven't used USA Spending before and you're looking for a little bit of a tutorial on it, just check out some of the videos that we have in the system. A lot of them, I use USA Spending to do some research and to walk through things. So you should be able to get some free tutorial there. You can, if you really want to deep dive, you can go to our website, govclose.com. We do have a certification program. That's not for everybody. That's more for, hey, if you're training is either a sales executive, you want to start a consulting business, learn the whole process. You can really deep dive there. But we offer a lot of free information, especially on the YouTube channel. So. Emmanuel, thank you. Legend, can you, yep. I'm interested in being an account executive independently. So this is Christian. I'm interested in being an account executive independently or even advising other companies on GovCon matters. Is that something you're, yeah. So the certification that we offer at govclose.com, that's completely what that's for. Actually, one of the students is in the chat or was, I say students, he's graduated, Ivan, already taking calls with potential clients. He is already got work on some of the sites that we recommend in the course for doing freelance work. And we actually have another student that hasn't even graduated yet that signed a first contract. So yeah, they're generating big results. And basically, guys, just so you know, like that GovClose, so is separate. So from DoD Contract Academy, everything that I've been doing since I retired, I was geared at helping companies sell to the government. And those are kind of my main client base. But because of some of this on YouTube and podcasting, and there's a lot of information out there that could be misleading, we started getting a lot of individuals that want to get into government contracting. And that's why we started the GovClose certification, to basically help people that don't have businesses yet or haven't sold anything. What can you do? Well, you can learn the government contracting process first and foremost, how it really works. And then you can decide, do you want to go apply for these account executive jobs? Do you want to be a freelance consultant? You want to start a consulting business? So that's what GovClose is primarily geared towards. We also get some sales executives from companies that want to go through the training and learn how do I find leads? How do I find a solicitation before a solicitation comes out, right? Because that's really the key. If you've watched our content, if you're just looking at a solicitation on sam.gov and bidding on it, that's the wrong move 99% of the time. We want to find that opportunity before the solicitation comes out. And the reason for that, guys, is because once the solicitation comes out, the handcuffs are on. What I mean by that is there are thousands of pages of federal acquisitions regulations. It can make it very complicated and overwhelming. And frankly, that's why not very many small businesses, less than 1%, are even trying to sell to the government. Because, if you try to understand this and start looking through regulations and all the different, noise out there, it can really put you off. But what you just need to understand is, what do you need to know to sell to the government in a particular area? And the first thing is, you need to find opportunities before that solicitation comes out. There's something called the market research phase. And this is where people that sell to the government for a living, these account executives, guys, for company, this is just a salesperson working for a company, right? As far as I'm concerned, this is the highest paid sales job you could get. You hear about medical sales, pharmaceutical sales, stuff like that. But these sales jobs, if you're getting a commission, and almost always with a salary, So first, there's usually a high paid salary because there are not very many of us out there that know how to sell to the government. Secondly, think about this. You're getting a commission on government contracts. These are some of the biggest contracts in the world, depending on what you're selling. I mean, I know a lot of individuals that have pulled over $1 million in just their commission fee, never mind their salary, right? So there's a lot of money out there for that, but all of us live in the market research phase. And that means before the solicitation comes out, there's a phase where the government is legally allowed to talk to people, to talk to companies, figure out the details of the requirements, figure out, are we going to set aside a solicitation for a small business, for a woman-owned small business? Are we going to sole source it to an 8A? All of these details, all of that stuff happens before the solicitation comes out. And once the solicitation comes out, the government is going to be very, very, very reluctant to talk to anybody, because if you pay attention to the defense or government contracting news, there are a lot of protests out there, especially for bigger contracts. And what that means is one company A is awarded a big contract. Company B doesn't like that, right? Company B files a protest. What that does is it delays the entire process of putting company A on contract. And keep in mind, this all exists to support our government, and a large part of that is supporting our military. A lot of times we don't have time to screw around with things like protests and whatnot to get, as technology to the troops in the field, or to, set up an HR system that's going to pay government employees, or whatever the thing is that the government's awarding. So these protests are a huge pain, and any information that the government gives to one company that another company doesn't get, once that solicitation comes out, that could be grounds for a protest. So what you'll see often is when a solicitation comes out, if people are asking questions, the government might put out an official statement on sam.gov or something, answering questions. That way, all of the questions get answered for everybody. But before that, you can set up a meeting with the government office. You can respond to a source as sought. You can do demos. There's so much you can do before that. So anyway, a bit of a tangent there. I've got probably 50 videos on just that. So that's what you need to know. Find it early, work it, develop a relationship. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, okay. So Christian, bottom line is yes, GovClose can absolutely help you with that. And even if that's not for you, there are other places you can go to learn the government contracting process. You can apply for those type of account executive jobs. You could certainly advise and help other companies. But my advice is, if you're going to do that, pick a specific niche in the beginning to learn completely. Could be GSA schedules, could be the SBIR process, Small Business Innovative Research. It could be proposal writing. So, but learn something very focused, and then you can expand from there. Portia, I have a notary business, but having trouble finding anything related. Well, Portia, if I could share my screen with you right now, I would, I would be bringing up USA Spending and searching for notary related work. So what you guys aren't seeing is that's what I'm doing on the side here. So I have USA Spending up, and I want to see, is there a notary NAICS code? By the way, I know there's notary work because I have legal and lawyers as some of my clients right now, and we've looked it up in the past. I just need to refresh my memory here. Where is the notary work? All right, so what I'm going to do here, just for the sake of time, is I'm going to do a quick keyword search. And when I search, by the way, guys, in USA Spending, I usually only go back 3 or 4 years. I don't want to go back. You can go back to 2008 in the system, but federal spending changes over time, and so if we're just trying to get if we're just trying to get an idea of what the spend is now, we want to make sure that it's not swayed by something that was bought in 2010, right, versus now. Another good, by the way, if you're looking at things like anything that was bought in bulk during COVID, the COVID timeframe, that can also throw off the numbers. So there were things bought then that may not be relevant now. Yeah, I found a lot of notary contracts. So I would just go to USA Spending and type that in, type in notary and start looking through the contracts that could potentially be relevant for you. And I would then kind of reverse engineer how those companies were winning those contracts. Let's see. Legend, is it a good idea to use sources like LinkedIn as your business account page rather than creating an entire website? Legend, it depends on what you're doing. First of all, LinkedIn is where everybody goes just to see that you're legitimate. Hold on, I'm bringing up LinkedIn right now too. So if you're selling to the government, it's possible they'll look you up on LinkedIn. If you're working as an account executive, or you're setting up a company to be a consultant or an advisor, certainly you have to have a presence on LinkedIn. Now, I have a presence on LinkedIn, but in two things. I have my own personal profile, and then I have the business profile, which I think is what you're talking about. Now, I don't use the business profile as much, but people usually just look me up, and that's kind of how I use it too. I'm usually looking up the individual. Again, there's probably a bunch of different ways to skin this cat, but here's the thing. Here's what I would tell you. In business, I want my LinkedIn profile to be as strong as possible. So completely filled out. What you want on there is, obviously your education, your work history needs to be on there. You want to have connections. I've heard experts say you want at least 500 connections. If you don't have them, start reaching out to people. What it just shows is credibility. You can get references on there. You can make your LinkedIn profile incredibly strong. And I'll research clients this way too. If someone doesn't have much of a LinkedIn presence, I get suspicious. So yeah, LinkedIn is kind of the gold standard as far as B2B and credibility. Now, the website, look, if you're going to be in business, you really need to have a domain name and you need to have a business email. If you're selling anything and you're using a Gmail or Yahoo address, again, some red flags go up, and you don't have to, spend a ton of money on something like this. You can go to GoDaddy, you can buy a domain. I think you can even get the email address through them. Although I'll tell you, I like to manage all of my domain names and email addresses through Google. I usually buy them on GoDaddy, but there's 1,000 ways to do that. But I recommend having a website and having your LinkedIn profile, not necessarily your business, but at least your LinkedIn profile up and running and strong. Let's see here. I am looking to start a SD-VOSB around GovCon, but I've only done research. I am new to the space. So this is, I don't know what your first name is here, but Jinxed 0110. I'm new to the space and I don't know much. Do you think your course is too advanced for someone like me? Man, this is turning into a GovClose certification ad, which is not my intent, by the way. Hold on. I'm just going to pop a link into it there so you can check it out. All right, guys. So anyway, here, the certification course, I'm putting a link in here. You can go take a look at it there. Yes. So first of all, SD-VOSB. So you're in the military. Hold on, I'm trying to scroll down to find your, there we go. All right. You're looking to start an SD-VOSB. So here's the first thing I would tell you is, if you're looking to start a business, we talked about this a little bit before. I would not start a business selling to the government. I think you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. When I hear things like middleman strategy, I immediately get turned off, because I feel like there's a lot of noise out there telling people that you could start a business selling to the government and it's easy. And you just find solicitations and you match companies to the solicitation. I'm not saying that you can't do that. I'm not saying that you can't make that work. I am telling you, though, that is not the way to do it. It is incredibly difficult. You want to have a business that is established, that is selling something commercially, and then approach the government after, if you want to sell to the government. If you don't have that, if you don't have a commercial business that's selling and you have a specialty, you can start a business, and you can start a business in government contracting, but you want to be more of an advisor or a consultant, meaning you're helping a company to do something. And it's so much better, guys. I mean, look, first of all, you're going to get paid faster, right? Let me just, by the way, some of the people out there that are talking about this middleman stuff have reached out to me on the side and been like, hey, Rick, this is what we're kind of teaching, but, I have to write 20 to 50 proposals to win something with this middleman approach, which, by the way, that's not going to work for huge contracts. Unless you're established. You could be an integrator and do something like that if you have contracts and a lot of it and past performance, but that's not what's being preached here. So if you're going to start a company selling to the government, first of all, you're not going to probably win anything for 6 to 18 months if you win anything at all. Secondly, if it's the middleman approach, guys, just be wary of that. I mean, that's not going to work out well for you. Even if you have a business and you're in your established business, you have software, you have something you're selling, and it's amazing, it still could take you a long time to win that first contract, right? But what some of these middlemen are doing, they're writing all these proposals. Do you know how long it takes to write a proposal? Even using AI, which, by the way, the government knows when these things are written by AI tools, but writing a proposal takes a lot of time. And by the way, you could charge big bucks for writing proposals. I won't even do it. It's such a pain in the ass. But if you have to write 20 to 50 proposals to win something, think about all the work. You have to go find a solicitation, then you have to go find companies and generate teaming agreements that can do the work if you even trust them. Then you're writing this proposal, and you have to do that over and over and over again. Probably going to take you months to even, let's say you win something. Let's say you get lucky and win something this way. Now you have to do the work. So you're not a middleman. You're a prime contractor. So that's the whole point. There's no such thing as a middleman. You just put in a proposal. You win it. You're a prime contractor. And if you just reached out to a bunch of companies that you barely know and it's a construction contract, now they have to do the work and you have to pay those guys, and you're still not getting paid, right? It could take 6 months to get awarded. Now you got to make sure they go in and do the work. You have to pay them, but you have to invoice the government for you to get paid. It could be a year before you start getting paid. Meanwhile, if you just start a consulting business, you're advising, you could make a sale in a week and start getting paid. You're helping companies to win these contracts. We got to know what you're doing, and you have to make sure you're offering value. So enough of that. Hopefully, jinxed. So what I would tell you is start your business. You could definitely still get the SDVOSB. You can go into sam.gov, register your business. You go to, I think it's SBA. I have an SDVOSB, not because I'm selling to the government through my business. I do for my clients, but I want to make sure that I can tell you good information. It didn't take long. The SDVOSB is actually, as long as you have your paperwork in check, that certification is one of the faster ones. Unlike 8A, even woman-owned small business can be a huge pain and take a while. But you can get those certifications. If you're in construction at all, you could start working as a subcontractor in construction, targeting the VA. The VA puts more contracts on SDVOSBs than any other agency. It's in construction. Last time I looked, it was like over 90% in some codes. So there is an avenue for you there. Christian, thanks for the information. You already have a company structure set up minus a website. Which course of yours for people that want to be accounting executives or consultants? Yeah, that's the link I put in the chat to. I think it says, it's at GovClose.com. You can go there. Would you say it's easier to get started in local contracts compared to Fed? Just to get an understanding and help get our feet wet in the business. Yeah, Legend, local and state. So there's a big difference between federal and local and state. They can look similar, okay, because sometimes, especially state, will try to mimic the federal sales process a little bit. But I want you guys to understand, federal agencies, all of them, fall under the federal acquisitions regulations. Now, each of them have their own culture and policies and stuff that can make it a little bit different. But dealing with any of the federal agencies, the process is going to be pretty similar. But state and local is all different. Every state is different. Every local government could be different. There are people that specialize in that. I'm not one of them, so I don't want to speculate on if that's going to be easier or not for you. I would imagine some states it would be easier, but I just don't know. By the way, you'll have to search through the YouTube videos. I did an interview with a woman who specialized in state and local. So if that's what you're interested in, I would find that video and reach out to her. All right. Themson. Hello, I have a question, please. For people who do not live in the United States, what are the steps to be able to start as a government contractor? So I often say, and I took this from the government, because the U.S. government will say they're the biggest purchaser of goods and services in the entire world. And if that's not true, I'm not sure who is. But I do know, and I manage, for instance, foreign military sales portfolios for the government. So the U.S. government does put foreign companies on contract in a lot of countries in the world, particularly in maybe only, I'd have to do the research, but our partner nation companies, especially, are where a lot of those contracts are going to go. So it's kind of country specific, but there is a way for, if you're not a U.S. citizen, you can register your business in sam.gov. There are some extra steps. I would go, and I might do a video on this, but if I could share my screen right now, I would. I will on the next video. Go to sam.gov. You're going to have to click around, but when you go to register your business, it's going to walk you through. There'll be a place on there for you to either say you're a U.S. citizen or you're not, and then it's going to give you the extra steps. So there are some extra steps you have to take, but you certainly can register your business. And you said do not live in the United States. So I guess I don't know if you're a U.S. citizen or not, Themson, but yeah, same thing. You don't have to live in the United States. A Christian, you work for a Fortune 500 SaaS company that caters to state and local government and public schools. Is that a field saturated? Well, it depends. Here's what I'd say about software, Christian, and this is something I'm intimately familiar with, is that there is an enormous amount of spending from the federal government in software. There is also a lot of competition. What can separate you from the rest of the herd is really understanding the security requirements that the government has for software. So if you're a software company, I would look up the FedRAMP process, and I would look up CMMC. Okay, CMMC applies to other companies besides just software. But so if you're going to put anything on a government network, you have got some pretty big cybersecurity restrictions and certifications that you are going to have to meet. And you're going to have to be able to show the government that you can meet them. So it's not enough just to say, hey, I've never sold a software suite to the government. The government doesn't use it, but hey, we'll meet all your security requirements. Good luck, because you're going to be in a crowded field. You could definitely sell software to the government. I sell software to the government for some of my clients, but look at FedRAMP. If it's going to be hosted in the cloud, FedRAMP certification is something that's coming up. Look at CMMC. There are self-assessments you can do. There are third-party assessors that can take a look at your software suite and tell you, hey, how close are you to meeting the requirements? And those are some things that can get you a little bit closer to at least being able to tell the government, hey, look, I'm not on contract, but I have a third-party assessor take a look at our software suite, and they say this is where we're at. And also, it's the uniqueness of your software. All software is different, right? So if it's something that's really, really common, then it's going to be harder to sell. But if you solve a really specific problem set, then it may be something that you can get in. Like, hey, I have a logistics software tool. It's the best logistics software tool for aviation. Well, now you may have like a niche there. I'm just talking, right? But that could be a niche that could really get you going in the right direction. Let's see here. IPP collector. It has the contract as if I'm being paid for the contract before speaking to anyone about winning. Yeah, Vern, I'd have to look into that. I'm really not sure. Yeah. Jinx, no, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, but look, I get a lot of veterans. We have a lot of veterans in our program. And initially, we had a training set up for a lot of sales executives for companies. And I got a lot of veterans coming in saying they want to start a government contracting business. And, I cannot tell you in good conscience that starting from zero, like if you're retiring or just getting out of the military, you need income coming in, right? You can't wait 18 months to get paid. So what I tell people is, look, because I personally, even though I help companies sell to the government, I have to get clients, right? Which is a business, that's B2B. So I think I'm a huge fan of having multiple streams of income, guys. Anyone watching this, whether you're in the military or not, I like having multiple streams of income coming in. So having B2B income with multiple clients or multiple customers is, especially if it's recurring, that is the way to go. Nothing's going to build security in a small business like having, if you have 5 people paying you, $5,000 to $10,000 a month for consulting services, and then maybe you could sell to the government as well if you have a specialty that the government's looking for, right? If you have a construction company, I want to have commercial clients. I want to have either other businesses or people paying me to do construction projects and have those construction projects lined up, and then have enough funding to pay somebody on my staff to go after the big government contracts. Because I know it's going to take a little while. But now, once I start winning those contracts, now I have government funding coming in and I have commercial funding coming in, right? And I probably have multiple streams on both sides, B2B and B2G. So it's the way to go. I love it. It's a wealth builder. So, but guys, just approach it with the truth, right? And the truth is, selling to the government takes a long time. If you are working with clients, if you're helping other companies, don't tell them you're going to get them on contract in 30 days, because it's not going to happen unless we're talking like small dollar commodities that the government's just buying. But I tend to avoid those. If we're talking about any real contract with the government, that's a longer process. So be honest, learn your craft, and you can really help people. It can be very, very lucrative for you. Any resources out there to network with small business owners targeting Gov contracts? I'm looking to partner with women to establish a woman-owned business. Thank you. Nibs. So there are a lot of small business networks out there, but I'm trying to think of a good one for you. Let me start. There are places you can go as a small business to kind of network around winning contracts. So one strategy for selling to the government, it's a very powerful strategy, and big and small companies use it alike, is subcontracting. So subcontracting is when a prime contractor that's the person that's going to be on contract with the government, and a subcontractor will be doing work for the prime. And in a lot of these proposals, you'll have a named subcontractor. So what I mean by that is, let's say the government wants to buy a software tool, and the prime, maybe they have the software tool itself, but then they need, there's a requirement for APIs to connect to a bunch of different places. Well, another company, a subcontractor, may provide that technology. And when the prime writes the proposal, they don't have to, but they may name the small business that's going to do that work for them. And that can also help the government, and it can help the prime if there's any type of small business requirement, if there's any set aside or anything. So, just explaining prime versus sub. There's a website and I interviewed the owner called Govly. So you can look at it on our site. again, that's more for getting set up with, they basically will match you to a prime. So that's one place where a subcontractor can get matched to a prime contractor, govlead.com, I think. As far as other networks, let me think about that too, because I can potentially post that. We do have, if you guys aren't aware, YouTube now has kind of like a social media page, and I've just started posting some things on there, polls and articles, things that I think are interesting. So I'll take a note and maybe leave some resources there for hey, where can you kind of gather with other women-owned small businesses. One thing I can also tell you, Nibs, is you can find on usaspending.gov, you can just search for women-owned small businesses and they'll all pop up. You can reach out to them. Could be a little business opportunity for you. Set up a woman-owned small business group for government contracting. It's a pretty interesting idea. Emmanuel, do you plan on posting this live? About to get into a long meeting. Yes. So Emmanuel, this is going to be posted. So it's live right now, but this gets posted on YouTube on the site. So this will be a video that you can just watch afterwards. Master Chief, I think you missed the DLA question. I spoke to someone who has been in this space for a while. They told me that DLA would be difficult if I were not a manufacturer. Is that true? Defense Logistics Agency. Potentially, yes. So Defense Logistics Agency, I personally only have a couple clients that do a lot of work through DLA. And I don't know if you guys have ever been to the DLA site. This is where part of what we're saying and what we talk about is there's so much to government contracting. It's such a huge space. I'm trying to find the site because the acronym is just not coming to mind right now. I'm going to put a Defense Logistics Agency link in here, and I want you to go and check out the opportunities and forecasts that they have on there. And they also have a bid board system. And the clients that I have that use DLA and utilize that bid board system, they're not, first of all, it's usually for products that they're selling. And if it's a commodity or if it's a product that anyone can sell, or meaning that, there are multiple manufacturers of it, it usually comes down to price. That's my experience. And so you can win on there. It's a different process than what I teach. Typically what I'm teaching is finding opportunities that are forecasted and influencing those into either a sole source contract or to a solicitation you're going to be much more competitive on. Let me put this in there. And I think, by the way, if what you're saying is, if I'm not the manufacturer, I don't belong in selling to the DLA. Well, what are you trying to sell, right? Are you trying to be a integrator or a middleman? I would think about what your primary industry is, your primary niche. Let me see here. What else do we got? Alex, we are seeking joint venture partners in order to qualify for SDVOSB 8A, Women-Owned Small Business Hub Zone. Please advise as to securing partners for joint ventures that qualify for set-asides. Well, it depends, right? It depends on, so joint venture partners in order to qualify for SDVOSB. I have a lot of questions about that. And then, okay, well, now you answer some of them in the next post. So I got to keep reading. We are an IT products and services company in business for 29 years and small business certified. Okay, Alex. So I think what you're saying is, look, you guys have been in the space for a while, but you're not an SDVOSB, an 8A, WOSB, Hub Zone, etc. This is what I do. So this is just what I do for teaming in general. For teaming in general, what I do is, now there's a whole strategy as to how to generate teaming partners and whatnot. But one piece of it is when I partner with someone, I want to know who I'm selling to. I almost always start with an early opportunity, like a source of sod or acquisitions forecast or something. But what am I selling? Who am I selling to? You're an IT company. Who's your main target, right? If it's, for instance, if you're going after SDVOSB companies, the primary purchaser of almost everything SDVOSB is going to be the VA, right? So I go to USA Spending. I would pop in your NAICS codes for IT, and then I would down select to those different categories that you are looking for. If you're looking for SDVOSB, you can click the SDVOSB filter, and it's going to show you the SDVOSB companies out there. More specifically, you could see, hey, if you already have a partner or an agency that you're selling to, you have good relationships with. Let's say it's the Air Force, since that's my background, right? So you click Air Force, SDVOSB, your NAICS codes, small business. Now what we're going to get is all the SDVOSBs that are selling to the Air Force in that NAICS code. And so you can look through them, because the reason you do that is because I want partners that already have past performance, because they're going to be much more likely. It's way easier to sell to the government if you have past performance. And then you're going to see, like, depending on how big the company is, you may have better, I don't want to say odds, but depending, because when I'm targeting companies to partner with, I might be looking for, small businesses with past performance. I may be looking for, on some, I might want a much bigger small business that I know has a team that can support the security requirements. Just depends. But so you can sort through it that way. But I think that's a great place to start. And you can do it for all the categories that you mentioned. Yeah, so I would start reaching out to SDVOSBs. I see you've already sent the RFI. You don't qualify yet. So RFI for AI, I'm assuming artificial intelligence. Our past performance includes AI team of 300 plus members. Yeah, but you just need the SDVOSB, right? And probably the if it's going to be a SDVOSB set aside, they need to be the prime. If you just have a requirement for an SDVOSB subcontractor, that's different. I would go onto usaspending.gov and I would find SDVOSBs that have sold to whatever agency you sent that RFI into. I am looking for only SDVOSBs that have sold to that agency and have done something. There's something in that RFI that the SDVOSB could do. So think about the requirements that you know about that are in the RFI, and I would start looking for companies, SDVOSB, that have that background and past performance with that agency. Yeah, no, I don't blame you. So, but anyway, that's where I'd start, Alex. Hopefully that helps. Now let's see here. Oh, and it looks like Master Scheme wants to talk to you about potentially partnering up. So you've already got somebody in here that you can reach out to. Maybe, guys, maybe this is where all the small businesses are going to congregate and team up for some of these contracts. Look, it's I love being in this space, the public sector space. It's really rewarding when you land a contract, and if you know what you're doing and have a regimented process, there's no reason that you can't be successful. But always approach things with, does the government buy what I sell? Who in the government is buying? What office? How do they buy? So like, do they use GSA schedules? Do they buy from small businesses? How much can you make? And find the opportunities early with those offices. Learn everything you can about those offices. That's why we do that. That's why I want to know, is it the Air Force buying? Is it the VA? Is it DLA? Like, for instance, I don't think I put this in there. Whoever was asking me about DLA, let me put the DLA website in here. Okay, there's the DLA website, just to go to. But for instance, this is a good use case or a good case study. If I'm selling to the DLA, if I determine that that's my target based on my research, well, if you go to that page that I just put the link in, you could see almost every agency's got, I think every agency has a small business page. You can go right on here and you'll see right in the middle, opportunities and forecasts. You can learn what's coming up. There's a mentor protege program. There's a small business innovation program. Like, deep dive on the agency you're selling to and take advantage of these programs. They're not all going to work out, but first of all, everything you can learn is going to help you sell to them, because you want to learn how they talk, what they need, what are the acronyms. It can be really, really helpful to do that extra layer of research. There's nothing worse when I was on the government side. Nothing worse if a company figured out how to get a meeting with me, which wasn't easy. She had to, they had to get through my secretary, but companies did it all the time. And the companies that won contracts usually managed to get in there. But nothing was worse than if a company actually managed to get in there and didn't even know what my office was in charge of buying. So you really want to understand the agency you're selling to. And a lot of that information can be done from your desktop. The next step is getting there in person and meeting people, because relationships and meetings are really what are going to help you to win in most contracting situations. All right, let's see. Christian, I'm a BDR now, prior experience data engineer developer. My thoughts are selling software and hardware. Do I need to drill down to something more specific, or is it okay to stay general? Christian, I think being specific as possible is the way to go. And even if you were general, like let's talk about software and hardware. Yeah. So software, again, has a lot of requirements. If it's going to go on a government system, it's got to have different security requirements. There's going to be a lot there that you have to hit. It might be easier to sell hardware in the beginning. I don't know. But if you have something, here's the thing, and I just have to talk to you. If you have a software solution that's unique, then you can go through the SBIR process, and you can win your first contract that way. Because if you go through SBIR, typically, because that's a research and development contract with the government, and a lot of times you're just building a proof of concept or a demo that's not actually going to go on a network. Your restrictions are going to be a lot less than, let's say, trying to sell to the DoD or something. But even for companies that can do a lot of different things, so this is a pet peeve, but I think this speaks to at least my philosophy on selling to the government. Let's say you're an IT company. IT is a huge category. And I can remember being on the government side, getting this. And by the way, I've had clients that have tried to do this too, where it's almost like you can't help yourself. Because when it's your business, you want to tell them that you could do everything. So a capability statement would come in, or someone would come in and give us a briefing on their company, and they'd have 100 different things. Oh, I can do this. I can do this type of cybersecurity. We can do, we can protect data at rest. We can do vulnerability assessments. We can do 100 staffing. We can do everything. Oh, by the way, sometimes they'll throw janitorial services on there too, right? Know who you're selling to. And so this is just a sales strategy, I guess you could say, is be hyper-focused. So if you're going to one office, if you do 100 things, but the office that you're trying to sell to needs somebody that can do penetration testing for cybersecurity, that is what is at the top of your capability statement. And you're like, we are the world's leading experts at vulnerability assessments. It's all we do. We're the best at it. Here's who we've done it for. Here's how you can put us on contract. That's what you're talking to. And you might put one or two other things on there, hey, we can support that with X, but you do not want to have 1,000 different things on there. And by the way, just in general, if you're selling something super specific, it's going to make it a lot easier for you. You're going to get lost in all of the opportunity out there. Make it something specific, but make it specific to something the government's buying. Yeah, I mean, Christian, if you already understand IT, being a consultant in that space, that would be your niche, right? So you could be a government contracting consultant. I can. And by the way, I think I did this for the first couple of months because I had a lot of IT cybersecurity backgrounds. You help IT companies sell to the government. I mean, hey, very clear. And by the way, I'm going to hire you if I'm an IT company and I need somebody to help me sell to the government, and I get 10 different people or 5 different people apply to a job I put out there, and they're like, hey, we can help anybody sell to the government. But then you're the only one that says, hey, Christian, I've got a background in IT. I help IT companies only sell to the US government. And maybe you can also say, hey, I've done it before. I have the GovClose certification, or blah, blah, blah. Look, you're super focused. You're the one that's going to get hired there. So, all right, guys, we are coming to the end of this session here. Thanks to everybody for coming in here. Very much appreciate it. I'm going to make this at least a weekly thing. I may make it, may do it a couple days a week. So yeah, just let me know if this has been helpful. If you'd like to see this a couple times a week, probably during the day, is my thinking. But if so, then we'll put it in there. No, thanks to you guys. Really appreciate it. Here, I'll put a link to GovClose. I'm also going to put a link in here to my LinkedIn profile. I would ask, hey, if you guys are on here and you want to connect on LinkedIn, yeah, go ahead, reach out to me on LinkedIn, and we'll connect there. We can ask questions, share news articles, whatever. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.